Mexico rich in history, culture, and people. Mexico has a rich and complex history, marked by ancient civilizations, colonial rule, independence, and modern struggles for identity and development. This narrative is proudly brought to you by Polly Speaks For You. At Polly Speaks For You, we are committed to empowering individuals, especially those with disabilities or learning challenges, through innovative text-to-speech and voice recognition technology. Polly Speaks For You is more than just software. It's a tool for self-expression, connecting people with the world in meaningful ways. By blending the richness of history with cutting-edge technology, Polly Speaks For You demonstrates that every voice, whether preserving the past or shaping the future, has the potential to inspire. While we strive to make the story engaging, our primary focus is on storytelling itself. The visuals are secondary. We're showcasing the remarkable capabilities of text-to-speech software that bring these stories to life. Ancient civilizations. The history of Mexico begins with the rise of advanced indigenous civilizations long before European contact. One of the earliest known cultures, the Olmecs, flourished around 1200 BCE, famous for their colossal stone heads and influence on later cultures. By 250 CE, the Maya civilization had developed in the Yucatan Peninsula, known for their achievements in mathematics, astronomy, and the construction of large cities like Tikal and Chichen Itza. In central Mexico, the Teotihuacan civilization built one of the largest cities in the world at its height, marked by the impressive Pyramid of the Sun. By the 14th century, the Aztecs, or Mexica, emerged as the dominant power in the Valley of Mexico, founding their capital Tenochtitlan on an island in Lake Texcoco. The Aztecs built an expansive empire through military conquest and tribute, but also developed a rich cultural life, with advanced engineering, agriculture, like the famous chinampas or floating gardens, and religious traditions centered around gods like Huitzilopochtli. Spanish conquest, 1519 to 1521. In 1519, Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés arrived on the coast of Mexico with a small force of soldiers. Cortés formed alliances with indigenous groups who were unhappy with Aztec rule and began his march toward Tenochtitlan. The Aztec ruler, Moctezuma II, initially welcomed Cortés, believing he might be a god, but the relationship quickly turned sour. After months of conflict, disease, especially smallpox, brought by the Europeans, and warfare, the Spanish, along with their indigenous allies, captured Tenochtitlan in 1521, marking the fall of the Aztec Empire and the beginning of Spanish colonial rule. Colonial period, 1521 to 1821. Mexico became part of the vast Spanish Empire, and the colony was called New Spain. Over the next 3 centuries, Spanish colonizers established control, and a complex social structure emerged, with Spanish-born elites at the top and indigenous people, mixed-race mestizos, and enslaved Africans at the bottom. The Catholic Church played a crucial role in converting indigenous populations and maintaining Spanish authority. Economic exploitation was rampant, with the Spanish extracting valuable resources like silver, which became the backbone of New Spain's economy. Indigenous peoples were often forced into labor through the encomienda system, though there were some efforts by figures like Bartolomé de las Casas to protect indigenous rights. Independence, 1810 to 1821. Inspired by the Enlightenment and revolutions in America and France, Mexico's struggle for independence began in 1810 when a priest named Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla issued the Grito de Dolores, a call for rebellion against Spanish rule. Although Hidalgo was eventually captured and executed, the movement continued under leaders like José María Morelos and Vicente Guerrero. After a decade of war, Agustín de Iturbide and Guadalupe Victoria led the final push for independence, and in 1821, Mexico achieved its freedom from Spain. Early republic and political turmoil, 1821 to 1876. Mexico's early years as an independent nation were marked by instability, economic challenges, and foreign intervention. The First Mexican Empire, led by Iturbide, lasted only a year before he was overthrown, and Mexico became a republic in 1824. The country was plagued by conflict between liberals, who wanted a secular, federal republic, and conservatives, who favored a strong central government and closer ties to the Catholic Church. In the 1830s, Mexico faced significant territorial losses. Texas declared independence in 1836, and after a brief war, it was annexed by the United States in 1845. This led to the Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848, in which Mexico was defeated and forced to cede nearly half of its territory, including present-day California, Arizona, and New Mexico, to the United States in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The mid-19th century was dominated by the presidency of Benito Juárez, a liberal reformer who sought to modernize Mexico through the reform laws, which reduced the power of the church and the military. Juárez also led the resistance against French intervention when Napoleon III attempted to install Maximilian of Habsburg as Emperor of Mexico. Juárez ultimately triumphed, and Mexico restored the Republic in 1867. Porfiriato and Revolution, 1876 to 1910. After years of political instability, Porfirio Diaz seized power in 1876, ruling Mexico as a dictator for over 3 decades in a period known as the Porfiriato. Diaz modernized Mexico, bringing in foreign investment and building infrastructure like railroads and factories. However, the benefits of economic growth were concentrated among the elite, while most Mexicans, especially indigenous peoples and peasants, suffered from land dispossession and harsh labor conditions. In 1910, discontent erupted into the Mexican Revolution, a decade-long civil war. Leaders like Francisco Madero, Emiliano Zapata, and Pancho Villa led movements demanding land reform, workers' rights, and political freedoms. The revolution resulted in the overthrow of Diaz and the establishment of a new constitution in 1917, which included significant land reforms, labor rights, and restrictions on the power of the Catholic Church. Modern Mexico. The post-revolutionary period saw the rise of the Institutional Revolutionary Party, PRI, which dominated Mexican politics for most of the 20th century. Under PRI rule, Mexico experienced periods of economic growth, urbanization, and social reforms, but also corruption and authoritarianism. The Tlatelolco Massacre of 1968, in which hundreds of student protesters were killed by government forces, remains a dark chapter in modern Mexican history. In the late 20th century, Mexico faced economic challenges, including the debt crisis of the 1980s and the peso crisis of 1994. The signing of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, in 1994 integrated Mexico more closely with the U.S. and Canadian economies, but it also led to debates about the impact on Mexican workers and sovereignty. The PRI's grip on power was finally broken in 2000 when Vicente Fox of the National Action Party, PAN, was elected president. Since then, Mexico has seen a more pluralistic political landscape, but continues to face challenges, including poverty, inequality, and the ongoing war against drug cartels. Mexico's history is one of resilience and transformation, from ancient civilizations to modern times. It is a country that has faced and continues to confront challenges while maintaining a vibrant culture and national identity. The people of Mexico. The people of Mexico are incredibly diverse, with a rich blend of cultures, ethnicities, languages, and traditions. Their identity is shaped by a long history that combines the legacies of indigenous civilizations, Spanish colonization, and various other global influences. Here's an overview of the people of Mexico. Indigenous peoples. Before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century, Mexico was home to many advanced indigenous civilizations, including the Olmec, Maya, and Aztec. Today, Mexico is still home to a large number of indigenous communities, many of whom preserve their languages, customs, and traditions. According to Mexico's Instituto Nacional de los Pueblos Indígenas, INPI, there are 68 recognized indigenous groups in the country, each with its own language and cultural heritage. Some of the largest groups include Nahua, descendants of the Aztecs, living primarily in central Mexico. Maya, concentrated in the Yucatan Peninsula, known for their historical achievements in mathematics and astronomy. Zapotec and Mixtec, inhabiting the state of Oaxaca. Otomi, found in central Mexico, including the states of Hidalgo and Querétaro. Tarahumara, Raramuri living in the Sierra Madre Occidental in northern Mexico. Huical, Wixarica known for their distinctive art and shamanistic traditions in the Sierra Madre region. Many indigenous people in Mexico continue to speak their native languages and maintain their unique cultural practices, though they have historically faced marginalization and struggles for land and rights. Mestizos. The majority of Mexicans are mestizos, people of mixed indigenous and European, primarily Spanish, ancestry. This blending of cultures began during the colonial period, when the Spanish intermarried with indigenous peoples, creating a new cultural identity that became dominant in Mexico. The mestizo population, which makes up about 60 to 70% of the country's population, reflects the synthesis of indigenous and European influences in language, religion, and traditions. Mestizos are central to the concept of Mexicanidad, a national identity that emerged after independence and was later promoted during the Mexican Revolution. This identity blends pre-Columbian heritage with Spanish cultural elements and Catholicism, which remains a dominant religion in the country. Afro-Mexicans. Mexico also has a significant Afro-Mexican population, primarily descended from enslaved Africans brought to the country during the colonial period. Though smaller in number compared to mestizos or indigenous peoples, Afro-Mexicans have made important contributions to the cultural landscape, particularly in states like Guerrero, Oaxaca, and Veracruz, where many Afro-Mexican communities are concentrated. Afro-Mexicans are recognized as a distinct ethnic group in the Mexican Constitution, and their contributions to Mexican culture, particularly in music, dance, and cuisine, are increasingly celebrated. European descendants. There are also Mexicans of European descent, primarily from the period of Spanish colonization. Over the centuries, waves of European immigrants have arrived in Mexico, including Germans, French, Italians, and others. Some of these communities have maintained their distinct cultural traditions, while others have blended into the broader mestizo population. Many Mexicans of European descent live in cities and are involved in business and political life. Other ethnic groups. Mexico has seen immigration from various parts of the world, contributing to its ethnic diversity. These groups include a Lebanese. A large wave of Lebanese immigrants arrived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, particularly settling in Yucatan and Mexico City. The Lebanese Mexican community has played a significant role in business and culture, with famous figures like Carlos Slim, one of the world's richest men, being of Lebanese descent. Chinese and Japanese. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, Chinese and Japanese immigrants came to Mexico, contributing to the economy, particularly in agriculture and trade. The city of Mexicali has a significant Chinese community. Jewish community. Mexico is home to a small but vibrant Jewish community, with Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jewish immigrants arriving in the 19th and 20th centuries. Mexico City has several Jewish neighborhoods, synagogues, and cultural institutions. Korean community. There is a small but growing Korean community, particularly in cities like Mexico City, thanks to more recent immigration trends. Language. While Spanish is the official and most widely spoken language in Mexico, the country is officially multilingual. Indigenous languages are recognized by the government, and there are over 60 indigenous languages still spoken today, with Nahuatl, Maya, Mixtec, and Zapotec being among the most common. The Mexican government has worked to promote and preserve indigenous languages through education and media, though many indigenous languages are still at risk of extinction due to declining numbers of speakers. Religion. Religion plays a significant role in the lives of many Mexicans. The vast majority of the population, over 80%, identifies as Roman Catholic, a legacy of Spanish colonization. Catholic traditions, festivals such as Dia de los Muertos or Day of the Dead, and practices are deeply intertwined with Mexican culture. There is also a growing number of Protestant and evangelical Christians in the country, as well as smaller communities of Jews, Muslims, and Buddhists. Indigenous religions, or syncretic practices that blend Catholicism with indigenous spiritual beliefs, are still practiced in many rural and indigenous communities. Social structure and urbanization. Mexico is a country of contrasts. While it has a growing middle class and urban centers like Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey that are modern and industrialized, many rural areas remain impoverished. There is also a stark wealth gap between the rich and poor, with the top 10% of the population controlling a large proportion of the country's wealth. Urbanization has been rapid, with many people moving from rural areas to cities in search of better economic opportunities. Mexico City, one of the largest cities in the world, is a hub of culture, politics, and commerce. Culture and identity. Mexican culture is vibrant and diverse, reflecting the blend of indigenous, European, African, and other influences. Key aspects of Mexican culture include cuisine. Mexican food is world-renowned, with staples like tacos, tamales, enchiladas, and mole being central to the cuisine. Mexican food is a UNESCO-recognized intangible cultural heritage. Music and dance. Music is a major part of Mexican culture, with genres like mariachi, ranchera, norteño, and cumbia being popular. Traditional dances like the jarabe tapatio, Mexican hat dance, and regional folk dances are also important. Art. Mexico has a rich tradition of visual arts, from pre-Columbian sculpture and painting to modern artists like Diego Rivera, Frida Kahlo, and David Alfaro Siqueiros, who are known for their murals and social commentary. Festivals. Mexicans celebrate a variety of festivals, both religious and secular, including Dia de los Muertos, Independence Day, September 16th, and Cinco de Mayo, more celebrated in the U.S. but still significant in parts of Mexico. In closing, the people of Mexico are shaped by their complex history and diverse cultural influences. From indigenous groups preserving ancient traditions to mestizos representing the blend of indigenous and Spanish heritage, Mexico's population is as varied as it is vibrant. This diversity has created a rich tapestry of languages, customs, and beliefs that continue to define Mexico today. If you're enjoying this story, please remember to hit like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue creating content that educates and empowers. To learn more about South Africa's leading accessibility software and to support our dyslexic-friendly initiative, visit www.polispeaksforyou.co.za. Drop a comment if you want more information. Thank you for watching this video.